Welcome back to my channel, artists. Today we will be learning how to make a loom. Step number 1, draw 7 lines. You want to draw your lines about 1/2 inch or 1 finger width apart at the top and the bottom of your loom. I'm going to count and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So then at the bottom I'm going to do the same. You want them just as evenly spread out, and it's very important you have the same number on the top as you do have on the bottom. Step number 2. Cut your lines about 1/2 inch deep. So you want to make sure that you cut your lines pretty deep into that cardboard. Otherwise, when you use yarn to wrap it around, the yarn will pop out. So you want to go in about 1/2 inch deep on each side with your scissors. Number 3, wrap yarn around the loom. You're going to want to leave about a 4 or 5 inch section on the end, and then you're going to go through the top and then next through the bottom. When you go through the top, make sure when you go through the top and then the bottom, make sure that you're alternating so each one of those notches or cuts has only one piece of string in it. You don't want it to come back into the same one. You want to go to the next one. And you're going to keep wrapping around the loom. Because you have string on the back and the front of your loom, you're going to end up with like a fringe pattern. If you want a different type of loom, you can go to my YouTube channel to find different ways to wrap. When you're all the way finished, you should have a little bit of piece left over. Leave that there. Step number 4, weave in an over-under pattern. So I have about 6 feet of string. That means enough string from my right arm to my left arm 2 times, and I'm going to weave over under. I'm going to start by going over the first black string, then under, then over, then under, then over, then under. I'm going to pull my string to the all the way to the end. I don't want to pull it all the way out, of course, because then that will ruin my artwork. But I'm going to pull it so there's enough string at the end that I can tie it to another piece of string to make a knot. Step number 6, weave opposite. This step is very important. The next row above, I want to weave opposite. So if I'm starting over here, I want to go under the next one. I don't want them to look the same. So you'll notice here that I'm going to go under and then over. So again, they're opposite, and then under and then over, making sure I'm opposite of the row below where I'm currently at. And then I will pull it all the way through. I don't want to pull too tight, because that can actually ruin my artwork and make it look curved on the edges. I also don't want to pull out that end piece either. So I'm going to pull it and leave it loose enough. Put too tight, it's going to make that kind of wobbly part and make it not look very good. So I'm going to pull it just a little bit, and then I'm going to weave the next row. Now for the next row, I'm actually going to do it incorrectly because I want you to see what happens if you do it wrong. There's a pretty good chance that at some point you won't pay attention and you'll do one row wrong. I want you to see what happens. Your weaving loom will kind of fix itself, but it might freak you out a little bit the first time it happens. So if you notice how they're the exact same, they're under right there where I pointed. When I pull all the way through, if 2 rows are the exact same, something really unique happens. So as I pull through, watch what happens. Voila, it actually comes off. And that can possibly happen to you. That's why it's really important that you're paying attention to the row behind it or below it, making sure it's the very opposite, over, under, all the way through. Step number 7, continue weaving. You want to continue that over-under pattern, making sure that you're opposite of the row below. We learned in the last step why, of course. We want to continue that over-under for every single row. Sometimes that pulling it through process does take a long time. Make sure you're not pulling too tight on the ends. You don't want to curve them upwards or inwards towards each other. You want to make sure that your rug has that perfect rectangular shape, and you just continue going up, up, up through your weaving. As soon as you are finished with that first piece of string, you're ready for step number 8, tie more string. So again, I've got at least 3 to 6 feet of string, and I'm going to tie a double knot between those 2 pieces of string. Make sure to pulling it tight, and then I'm going to just continue weaving over under in that same pattern. When you finish one string, tie a new string. You can use a different color like I've chosen to and make fun and interesting patterns, or you can keep it the same color if you want your rug to be all one color. You can think about how thick or thin you want your pattern to be. It's up to you. Just make sure that when you're tying those strings together, you're tying them nice and tight. As I continue making my weaving, you'll notice that I continue going through my over under, and then at the end of each row I kind of pull it down or pull it tight. I may not do that after every single row, but after every once in a while I'm going to pull all of those strings down and tight. That makes it look a lot more interesting. It typically makes it softer, tighter, and stronger of a weaving. When you are finished with your weaving, you're ready for step number 9, cut it off the loom. Flip your weaving over to the back side and just cut those strings off. It can be a little nerve-wracking doing this, but it's actually quite fun. Just be careful that you don't unravel it before you are finished. So I'm just going to pull all those strings right off the back side, making sure that nothing is connected to the loom. Step number 10, tie the ends together. So I'm going to start by tying my blue string to the black string just to keep it from unraveling anymore. So you're going to tie a double knot to make those strings tie and connect. This is probably the hardest to tie together because the strings aren't going the same direction and they may not be as inclined to want to tie together. Then after I'm finished with that, I'm going to tie each of my sets of black lines, my loom lines together, string together, making sure that nothing comes off and nothing unravels. This is kind of like a fringe pattern on the edge of my rug. When you are finished tying those edge pieces together, it's time to trim your loose ends. Take your scissors. I don't like that blue string being on there as part of the fringe. I think it looks a little funny, so I'm going to cut that one pretty low. I'm going to go through my loom then and find any of the places where I tied string together that might be coming out. I have one piece there that looks like it's really long and needs to be tied together, so I'm going to tie that together, and then I'm going to cut any of those loose edges to make sure that that my artwork doesn't look messy or sloppy, and that my artwork feels finished. So when I'm finished tying that knot there, then I'm going to take my scissors and trim the edge pieces. I'm going to do that to every single knot that I can find on my loom, and also to trim the edges of my fringe on the end of my rug, just to make everything look clean and neat and finished. I hope you have enjoyed learning how to make a woven mat with us on our channel. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you can keep up to date on all the fun and fantastic things that we are doing in the art classroom. What will you create?